Yeah, I'm on the phone with him right now.
The only thing that keeps me alive is my mother, and the fact that they're...
On October 17th, 2024,
Yeah.
Officer Crystal
the officers
Edwards
just
of the
walked in
Cherokee
here
Indian
and,
Police Department responded to a call
yeah.
from Harrah's Cherokee Casino in
what's up,
Cherokee,
guys?
North Carolina, indicating that employee Michael Zepeda had made statements about harming himself to a casino investigator. After Mr. Zepeda was transported to the Cherokee Indian Hospital and placed under an involuntary commitment order, his son, Travis Zepeda, arrived at the emergency room demanding to see his father, which led to a separate interaction with probation officer Joshua Taylor and Sergeant Cody Owl of the Cherokee Indian Police Department. The encounter that followed was captured on officer body camera.
Okay.
Hey.
Just because they want my mom in here.
Is he talking to his dad?
Yeah, I'm on the phone with him right now.
The only thing that keeps me alive is my mother, and the fact that they're keeping
And then
her
I
away from
don't
me is
technically
making
have
things
a
worse.
release, so I can't give him specifics, but I've told him
Yeah.
we have determined.
Well, the officers just walked in here and, yeah.
We're just going to talk to you.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Your dad's in a situation. He was at work at the casino.
Yep.
He's made some threats to his life.
But he didn't threaten. He just said,
Listen, we got it on camera.
all right, then show the
We
video.
can't show you the video. We can't magically make the damn thing pop up.
Well, what I'm saying is, if he really didn't say that, say he's going to hurt himself now,
Hey,
I just heard him on there. It's the only thing that's keeping him alive.
that's not saying he's going to hurt himself
Travis,
now.
He's told
Travis,
us multiple times.
He's told us multiple times.
If,
By law, we cannot.
but
let
if
him
he
go.
hurts when his mom dies, his mom's healthy as hell.
Travis disputes the basis for his father's involuntary commitment, arguing that the statement Michael made was not a threat of imminent self-harm. Under Section 122-500 of the Cherokee Code of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Nation, anyone with knowledge of an individual who is mentally ill and is either dangerous to self, dangerous to others, or in need of treatment to prevent further deterioration that would predictably result in dangerousness may appear before a magistrate and execute an affidavit and petition for a custody order. If the magistrate finds reasonable grounds to believe that the facts alleged in the affidavit are true and that the respondent meets those criteria, the magistrate shall issue an order directing a law enforcement officer to take the individual into custody and deliver the respondent to the tribe's facility for examination by a commitment examiner. Well, according to Officer Edwards' incident report, while still at the casino, Michael told her that self-harm had been an ongoing issue, that when he decided to act on it, no one would be able to stop him, that his mother was the only individual who had kept him from doing it already, and that he possessed weapons, but he did not have any with him at the time. Now, if a court were to credit those statements as accurately reflecting what Michael said to Officer Edwards before she transported him to the hospital, a court could conclude that the reasonable grounds threshold for a custody order under Cherokee law was met, as Michael's statements constituted an affirmative articulation of suicidal ideation and suggested dangerousness to self in the immediate future. Here, Officer Edwards' report indicates that she completed a petition for involuntary commitment based on the statements Michael had made to her, which was granted by Magistrate T. Welch. The report further documents statements and conduct from Michael at the hospital after being served with the involuntary commitment order, such as telling Officer Edwards that she would quote-unquote just have to shoot him, making comments about taking officers' weapons and forcing officers to shoot him, and telling another officer that if he was going to do anything, it would be to someone like him, and that he would grab his gun. The report also describes a physical altercation in which Michael attempted to leave the exam room and physically struggled with officers, kicking at them and attempting to bite an officer's arm, which led officers to apply a pain compliance technique and place him in hard restraints. Now, these statements and actions, if accurately reported, occurred after the magistrate had already issued the order, and accordingly did not contribute to the reasonable grounds for the commitment. However, they do provide further support for the validity of the involuntary commitment.
But Travis, listen. We don't want to be doing this. We don't want to be here.
Yeah, but really, he said if. If he said he was, I would totally back y'all 110%.
That's what we're trying to tell you, Travis.
Say it out loud, he can hear it.
He's not being straight up with you about what he said.
No, my dad, are you lying to me?
I don't lie.
He doesn't ever lie to me. And let me tell you something, I just had my old lady $2,000. I'll go up and beyond because my dad doesn't ever lie to me.
Turn around, put your head behind your back. You're not gonna fucking threaten me.
Oh, I see how this is. I see who the
Man, take him down.
what happened.
cameras on. You don't know what you just did. I didn't threaten you. I just said I would go up and beyond for him. That's my dad. Oh, you're hurting me.
Move your hand underneath you.
I can't. You got me pushed
Move
down.
your hand underneath you.
Oh, what the What the is this? You're supposed to be a cop. You're a goddamn bully. I never once said I was gonna threaten you or anything. I said I'd just go up and beyond for my dad. I never said. What the dude?
Officer Taylor orders Travis to put his hands behind his back, shoves him against the wall, and tells him that he is not going to threaten him. Officer Taylor and Sergeant Al then take Travis to the ground and place him under arrest for disorderly conduct and resisting lawful arrest. Under Section 14-25.12 of the Cherokee Code, disorderly conduct is defined as purposely causing or recklessly creating a risk of public inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm by, among other things, engaging in fighting or threatening to engage in violent or tumultuous behavior. Officer Taylor wrote in his report that he initiated an arrest because he interpreted Travis's statement about the $2,000 to refer to bond money that would be used to bail him out after he assaulted a law enforcement officer. A court evaluating the arrest would likely find that this strained interpretation of Travis's statement did not amount to probable cause that Travis had purposely caused or recklessly created a risk of public inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm by threatening to engage in violent or tumultuous behavior, particularly when the complete lack of any physical cues of aggression and the restrained volume of his voice are considered. Now, as for the resisting lawful arrest charge, Section 14-70.19 of the Cherokee Code makes it unlawful to create a substantial risk of bodily harm or to employ means of resistance justifying or requiring force to overcome the resistance for the purpose of preventing a law enforcement officer from effecting an arrest, and by its terms presupposes that the arrest is lawful. Accordingly, a court would likely find that the resisting charge was likewise not justified because the underlying arrest was not supported by probable cause.
I didn't resist or anything. You just choked the out of me. Call 911. Dude, man, did you see that? Like, for real, I didn't resist or nothing. I said I'd go up beyond for my dad. I need to talk to y'all, Sergeant.
I am Sergeant.
Y'all did what?
I gave his wife
Oh, hell.
$1,000.
I gave her $2,000 because I'd go up and beyond for my dad. I never once threatened you, dude.
Where your car go?
I need to talk to y'all, Sergeant.
I'm right here.
Or who's above y'all, because that was not... Anybody would know that I didn't threaten y'all. I said I'd go up and beyond for my dad. Who wouldn't? And then he attacks me like a ravaged animal.
Calm down.
No, dude, y'all just attacked me. I wasn't resisting.
You're under arrest.
I get that. I don't give a about the rest. I did just choke this out of me.
Calm down.
I feared for my life. You don't think I will hire a lawyer? This is getting put. Oh man, this is fucked up, dude. And that lady's seen it. If she's here to help people, then she would say what really just happened. I got attacked and bullied by these, I don't know. I need help. I need some other officers to take me to jail because this dude's crazy. This dude's nuts. He attacked me. I wasn't resisting. Look on the video cameras on your chest. I hope it's recording.
You've been hostile this whole time.
I wasn't hostile. My hands were open.
Right now.
Dude, I'm freaked out. You just choked me. You just choked me. I'm scared.
You've been hostile this
I'm
whole
scared to death. You just choked the out of me.
Travis confronts the officers about their use of force during his arrest, repeatedly stating that he was choked. During the arrest, the body camera footage captured complaints from Travis about being unable to breathe.
I can't breathe.
and shows an officer with his hand against the side of Travis's head or neck while he is face down on the floor, which is consistent with Travis's version of events. The Supreme Court set out the controlling standard for evaluating an officer's use of force during an arrest in the 1989 case of Graham v. Connor, holding that the reasonableness of the force used is judged under the totality of the circumstances by weighing factors such as the severity of the crime at issue, whether the individual posed an immediate threat to the safety of officers or others, and whether the individual was actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight. Here, Travis was suspected of disorderly conduct, a low-level misdemeanor offense, and, as we discussed earlier in this episode, there was likely not even probable cause to believe he had committed this offense. At the time force was applied, there was no evidence that Travis posed an immediate threat to the safety of officers or others, as he was unarmed, had not engaged in any physically aggressive behavior, and was outnumbered in an emergency room lobby with hospital security in the area. And although Travis did appear to struggle against the officers after they initiated the arrest, as we discussed earlier in this episode, he was entitled to resist an unlawful arrest under North Carolina law, and he did not, quote-unquote, resist in an assaultive or violent manner. As such, there is a strong argument that the officers used excessive force during the arrest.
Help!
Hush.
Shut up.
Dude, you scared me, dude. You just tried to attack me like a... Ow! Ow! My wrist!
Say you didn't even hit your wrist.
No,
Stop
bro.
being dramatic.
Have you ever had goddamn handcuffs on?
Yeah.
Dude, did you realize you just twisted
Stop
my...
being dramatic.
Help!
Hush.
Help me, please!
You're gonna get another
Get
charge.
different officers, I'll stop. You guys are nuts. Please, just get different officers.
Come on.
Help me! They just beat me up!
Hush.
Help! I didn't do nothing! You attacked me like a goddamn crazy dude, mama. Ooh! Carol! Go to the jail! Ow! Ow! Fuck! Please tell me this thing's recording. Ow!
He's been
Crazy,
awful the
dude!
whole time.
You're a bully!
We had to wrestle his dad, and he was trying to bite me as we was securing him.
I never won!
Your dad did.
God dang, what's wrong with them?
They're all freaking crazy.
His dad was trying to bite my arm while we was handcuffed him to the bed.
The minute we freaking made contact with him, he's been hostile this
They
whole
told me he gave
time.
his girlfriend $2,000. He's ready to go above and beyond. I'm not gonna let it swing on me.
And we housed him at Cherokee.
Following the arrest, the criminal charges against Travis were eventually dismissed. Michael is currently seeking counsel to file a civil complaint against the officers, but has been unable to retain an attorney as of the date of writing this episode. Overall, Officer Taylor and Sergeant Al get an F for arresting Travis based on a tortured interpretation of plainly innocuous statements, characterizing protected speech as an arrestable offense, and applying unnecessary force to effect that unlawful arrest. Travis's comments, considered in the context in which they were actually made, were a son's expression of devotion to his father, volunteered as evidence of how much he was willing to do for him in the middle of a heated disagreement about his father's involuntary commitment. Reading those statements as a coded reference to bond money for a planned assault on a law enforcement officer was a plainly unreasonable interpretation that was not supported by anything that Travis actually said, did, or signaled with his body. The force used to effect the arrest added to the underlying problem, as a low-level misdemeanor allegation involving a citizen who had not raised a hand toward either officer did not warrant a takedown that left Travis on the ground stating that he could not breathe. This interaction highlights the danger of an officer treating words a reasonable listener would never have heard as a threat as the basis for an arrest. Travis gets a B+ for exercising his right to disagree with the officers without engaging in any conduct that could lawfully be criminalized, asserting that his father was not a threat to himself based on the information he had, and calling out the officers for their egregious actions after they forcefully arrested him for his protected speech. The First Amendment strongly protects the right to verbally oppose and challenge police action, and Travis did exactly that. Pushed back on the officer's characterization of his father's statements, disputed the basis for the involuntary commitment, and refused to accept the officer's framing simply because it was being delivered by a uniformed officer. While Travis did speak aggressively to the officers and did appear to non-violently resist their attempts to arrest him, he remained within his First Amendment rights in his speech and did not behave assaultively during the struggle. I commend Travis for standing up for his father in a moment when his father could not stand up for himself, for refusing to be intimidated into silence by officers prepared to treat his words as a basis for criminal charges, and for exercising his First Amendment right to engage in unapologetic verbal challenge to police action.